Good morning and welcome to the New Jersey Morning Show. I'm Cara DeFalco.
And I'm Lisa Marie Falbo. We're doing the show from home today because it is an ice rink outside. Yeah. And here to tell us more about that is our meteorologist, Mike Vivetta. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning to you both. Yeah, nice to see our smiling faces from home, but at least we wouldn't have the chattering teeth because you step outside, it's cold. It's cold, it's icy, it's slippery. I've actually been going outside hourly and taking measurements because, that's what a meteorologist does. Sticks the ruler up against the ice, and there's really no way, unless you have this very fancy meteorological equipment, to get an ice measurement other than the old school method of going against a little branch and sticking the ruler up against it. A quarter of an inch of ice up here in Morris County this morning. Yeah, so a lot of that ice, and that's going to make for some slick and slippery travel. Hopefully, you're staying home nice and warm today. A lot of the kids have the day off, but sledding around and even going to, the local park, you're not going to find the most ideal conditions because of that ice. It's going to make for some loud and very crunchy, I think, sledding. Let's take it over to the weather PC if we can. I want to give you a look around the state and where you see that ice right now. So, primarily along the northern section of New Jersey, really north and west of the Turnpike, where you see that shade of pink, that is where the freezing rain is currently happening. North and west of the Turnpike, that shade of pink is showing the sleet, the freezing rain. Any shades of blue, which is snow, well off into portions of the Hudson Valley. But a little further south of the Turnpike, you have a plain rain, and that rain is also freezing on contact, allowing for a little bit of that icy glaze. I'll show you some pictures of that coming up in just a bit. The good news is this all moves out of here in the next 2 or 3 hours, so by this afternoon, we will see a dramatic improvement, and that's what today's weather graphic shows. The forecast brings back a nice sunny afternoon. Yeah, the sun will shine across New Jersey today, allowing for temperatures to climb back into the low 40s, and with that, a very pleasant feeling, bringing back a few rays of sun, but they don't last long because the temperature tumbles in through the overnight, and it stays very cold this upcoming weekend. Around New Jersey, temperatures today holding in the mid-40s, such as Newark and Trenton. So this afternoon, as the clearing occurs, we'll see a rapid melting of the ice, and that will also help melt a lot of the ice that's accumulated on the untreated surfaces as well, get all the way down to 50 degrees this afternoon in Atlantic City. There's a much colder weekend ahead. We'll have that weekend forecast for you. That is coming up, Lisa Marie and Cara, in just a few minutes.
All right, so I'm glad to hear that I don't have to go out and do anything about the ice. I can just let nature take care of it this afternoon. So just hang out long enough.
In the direction of the sun, and you should be good to go.
And we should be good to go. Good to know. Thank you, Mike. We'll check back in with you in just a little bit. So obviously the big headline of this week and the day, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It's rattling financial markets and U.S. allies around the world. Russian President Putin warned the U.S. that any attempt to interfere would lead to, quote, consequences you have never seen. President Biden condemned the attack and promised to, quote, hold Russia accountable. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said he would aim to cut Russia off from the UK's financial markets. Now, New Jersey has the 4th largest Ukrainian population in the United States. The Ukrainian History and Education Center in Jersey City said in part in a statement on their website, quote, "We call on all people and nations of goodwill to stand with Ukraine at this dangerous time so that history does not repeat itself." Just powerful stuff going on right now. Joining us now is attorney, former Time Magazine senior reporter, and professor emeritus of political science at St. Peter's University in Jersey City, Professor Alan Sanders. Professor, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure, and good morning to both of you.
Thank you. We, Lisa and I were actually just having this conversation yesterday at our studios. Why is Putin so interested in Ukraine? Can you kind of help us understand what's prompting all of this?
Well, I think Mr. Putin has visions of grandeur. That is to say, from a long while, he's been figuring out how to re-expand Russia to the breadth and length and power of the former Soviet Union. And of course, Ukraine was an important part of the Soviet Union. And so he views it as his destiny, really, his manifest destiny, if you will, if we can use an American term, to bring back the power, the influence, the sphere of power and of influence that the Soviet Union had. It's an obsession of his. And then, of course, he's also concerned about the growing strength of NATO. NATO has expanded expanded eastward. Former communist states who used to be within the orbit of the Soviet Union have joined NATO. So it really is an attempt to redraw the map and bring it back to the way it was before the 1990s.
Dr. Sanders, why now, though? Why the obsession? Why the invasion?
Well, of course, only Putin knows, but this is a moment of some weakness in the West. I mean, I wouldn't overstress it, but certainly we had a chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan, which signaled that perhaps the United States was withdrawing from the world scene a little bit. Putin is well aware of the domestic turmoil that we are still undergoing that follows up the Trump administration. There's lots of discord and dissent here in the United States. Then, of course, the Europeans are always a bit disunited, and they're undergoing a period of some conflict themselves with right-wing forces. The presidential election of France is just around the corner, so that's another element of uncertainty and instability. And Germany has a new chancellor who's been untested. So Putin may have figured that this is probably an opportune moment to test the Western alliance.
So President Biden says NATO will meet today to talk about how they will counter the invasion. So what can be done outside of the military at this point?
Well, military intervention is pretty much off the table because everybody understands that if there were direct conflict between any NATO forces or the American forces, this could quickly get out of control and escalate to the nuclear level, which would, of course, be catastrophic. So what's really on the table really is more sanctions. A powerful set of sanctions have already been announced. There's still more that could be imposed on Russia. So that's something that will be considered. The other element, of course, is diplomatic isolation of Russia, and the United States and its allies are working to get a worldwide alliance as big and as large as possible to diplomatically isolate Russia. And so that's what's on the table, and that's what they're thinking of doing, and they're meeting and continuing to meet to see whether they need to fine-tune, elevate the sanctions that are already on the table.
Professor, so what kind of impact would we see from those sanctions or any other move that we make in the next few days or weeks? You know, how does that turn around? And, you know, because it's never, they're kind of, it never has a no consequence for us as well.
Well, yes, the economic sanctions are all aimed at hobbling Russia's economy, disrupting trade and high-tech trade with Russia, and of course, attacking their financial institutions and banks. All of this could have repercussions on oil and gas. Russia is a major exporter of both, and so we can expect that higher prices for both of those energy fuels can be expected. Also understand that Ukraine is a big exporter of wheat and grain, and if it comes under the control of Russia, that will also be disrupted and probably increase the prices for wheat products. And then, of course, there's always the potential of cyber attacks, and those cyber attacks aimed at corporations or financial institutions of the West could disrupt commerce. And any disruption of commerce, as we know from the pandemic, can lead to higher prices and inflation. So all of these are possibilities, and that's one of the reasons that the measures being contemplated by the West are calibrated to try and minimize the impact of those counterattacks and counter problems emanating from this incursion.
So how is this going to impact us here in the United States? Obviously, we're already dealing with skyrocketing oil prices. Should we expect that to go even higher?
Yeah, I think that's a real possibility. And of course, the Biden administration is very concerned about that. In his public address yesterday, the president pointed out that he's watching inflation. He's concerned about it. He understands how it impacts the budget of ordinary families here in the United States. And that's one of the reasons that the sanctions that he announced were not the ultimate sanctions that could be imposed. He held back on some of them, undoubtedly, because he's trying to minimize the impact. It's a careful balance of trying to punish Russia, but also minimize the economic impact here on American consumers.
Dr. Sanders, I have one question, really not related to Russia, but the world in general. Do you think this destabilization will be happening in other parts of the world? I know a lot of people are talking about Taiwan now. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, certainly. I mean, look, anything that happens on the world scene is interrelated. So the Western reaction, NATO, the European Union, United States, Canada, and its allies in East Asia by the way, is very important because China will be watching how the United States and its allies react. China is seeking to spread its influence. And then, of course, you've got Iran that also seeks to spread its influence over the Middle East. And then let's not forget about all the terrorist groups that are operating around the globe. All of these actors will be watching how the West reacts, how sturdy and how unified it maintains itself and its actions. And so anything that we do pertaining to Ukraine will have repercussions on all those other theaters of conflict.
Professor Alan Sanders, thank you so much for your time this morning and your insight. We really appreciate what you have to say. And again, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
Thank you
as
Dr.
well.
Sanders. Wow, he broke it down so eloquently, and it's very scary stuff. But
he really
part
did.
Of our in-studio conversation yesterday, as we were Googling why this is happening.
I know. You know what though, and it's really, I think I had this conversation then with a different friend yesterday too, where I think for adults, I'm just gonna say adults now because I don't know that it's even generational, but it's like I feel like we've had so many once in a lifetime event, like we're done. We're, like somebody had posted yesterday. It's like, oh, congratulations, you survived a 2-year global pandemic to jump into World War III. It's like, we're so done.
I mean, and the COVID stuff is still happening. I mean, look what's happening in Canada with the trucker convoy. It is now coming here. You know, there's grassroots missions happening all over the country now. Trucks are lining up. We were going to have a guest today. That unfortunately couldn't come on, but we can talk a little bit about that because New Jersey will see its own version like we saw in Canada. Organizers of the New Jersey Convoy say they'll drive from North to South Jersey starting on March 5th. And it's about vaccination freedom. Meantime, state police say they are preparing their heavy wreckers for next weekend as the convoy of truckers travels through our state. So the COVID thing is not going away. We're on the brink of World War III. Where is the good news? Where's the silver lining?
I know. It's just been so much. And with the truckers, it's interesting because I know the state police did, basically come out and say, listen, they can drive on the highways, sure. And if they move slow, we don't want that really. But if they stop altogether, we're towing them. We're not doing, what they did at the Canadian border. We're not tolerating that. So they say, you want to convoy through, you want to congregate in a safe space, by all means, you're welcome to do so, but you're not going to disrupt the state of New Jersey.
Yeah, what's just interesting to me that we're looking at the map right now, that this is published. Like I would have thought that they would have wanted to surprise everyone. So I'm surprised that they're communicating what their moves are. And then just with everything that happened in Canada, some people were thinking, maybe it would have just been effective if they just parked the trucks at home and went on strike.
Right. Rather than, and that was, I saw an interview with somebody, an economist in Canada who basically said, listen, you're hurting your own people. You're not hurting anybody that you're annoyed with. You're hurting, the common Canadian. And I think with the folks here in New Jersey, they were very specific, again, coming out and saying, we're not trying to disrupt anything. We just want to meet and talk and agree and just kind of show our support, for that. We don't want to have any type of, vaccine mandates.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, well, you know what? We do have a little silver lining. We have some glimmers of hope. Governor Murphy will be ending his weekly COVID update next week on the 2-year anniversary of New Jersey's first case. The last COVID update will be held. So that's some good news. We're getting there.
We're getting there. And look, people all over the country are dropping mandates, whether it's mask or even vaccine at this point. You don't have to show your proof in places like Chicago anymore. So Boston. So, I mean, slowly but surely, hopefully we're turning the corner. We have bigger things, I think, to worry about now.
Yes, exactly. Now we have a bigger problem.
Yeah. So keeps going from bad to worse. Anyway, next, we're going to learn how to optimize our LinkedIn, especially if you were looking for a new job. Melanie Borden is here to join us.
And you can connect with us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll keep you up to date on who's going to be on the show. Be sure to check us out. Click follow.
The American Lung Association invites you to join us outside in 2021 for our Fight for Air Climb events. Now more than ever, we need you in the fight for clean air and healthy lungs. Let's go outside and climb, because every step counts. Visit us at lung.org.
Watch OSDIA interviews live every Sunday night at 8 p.m. and celebrate the best of Italian American culture. Each week, we will feature an exclusive interview with a prominent Italian American from around the country. You can watch OSDIA interviews live on Optimum 61, Verizon 530, or stream live from anywhere on News12.plus. For more on Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America, visit osaya.org and follow along on social media.
Welcome back to the New Jersey Morning Show. Let's get a check of some headlines around the state. Congressman Frank Pallone was in Asbury Park yesterday discussing electric vehicle charging stations. Now, New Jersey is set to receive over $15 million federal dollars to build more charging stations. And some sad news out of Ocean County. An Ocean County sheriff's officer has died from COVID. Sergeant Matthew Horton contracted the virus while on duty. He is survived by his wife and 4 sons.
Oh, so sad. Sussex County College has changed course when it comes to masks. 11 days after announcing they would keep masks through the spring semester, the college president said they would instead be optional as of March 7th. And Senator Bob Menendez is calling on the IRS to improve its customer service. It's estimated the agency has over 20 million backlogged tax refunds to process.
Yeah, and those are not this year's.
Yeah, I know. And I don't know, that's great that he's calling them out, but I don't know if it's going to change much.
I don't know how that's going to speed anything up. It's like, why don't you just hire some people and get that,
There's plenty of people out of work. I mean, I'm sure you could do that work from home if you're good at math. What a great job.
Data processing, basically.
Yeah. Not us, though. I can never work for the IRS. Sorry, I can't volunteer for that. No. I would screw it up even more. So.
I was gonna say it would be, you know what? I would just be like Oprah. I'd be like, you get a refund, you get a refund, you get a refund. All right, let's bring in meteorologist Mike Favetta with your New Jersey forecast. Right, Mike? That's what you would do too. Everybody gets a refund.
Tax season.
Horrible.
Always a fun time. Because you know why? It's when winter season, the end of the big winter storms transition to March, and then we have severe weather season in New Jersey, and then the meteorologist is expected to, file all the numbers on time. So it gets a little busy. It's a little busy. It's busy for everyone. We've got some sleet, some freezing rain throughout this morning, but some colder weather on the way for tonight. I actually have some more of the reports around New Jersey to show you who has the greatest accumulation and glaze of that ice accretion. I'll give you that coming up. I wanted to show you a loop now. This is the animation on the weather PC showing all of the freezing rain moving quickly to the east. What's important here is that you see the clearing back off to the west, and that clearing will allow for a very nice afternoon. Once that clear sky arrives here in New Jersey, we bring back nice sunny weather to finish out the day, so that will feel very pleasant. As far as the ice, this is what I measured this morning, almost 1/4 of an inch of an icy glaze on the tree tops and branches, and this was a branch just outside the front of the house. So if you can imagine what the power lines look like before all of that sun should hopefully melt some of that ice away. Watch out for falling ice later today as well. We've got some weather headlines for you today across New Jersey. It will be cold, but the weather clears up this afternoon. There's another round of cold on the way for the weekend, although it remains dry. And next week is another pretty uneventful weekend, and we'll take that, especially after so much weather going from the record-setting highs just the other day to now the ice this morning. And I'll talk more about those record-setting highs coming up in our next weather segment. As far as the weekend, let's look ahead to that weekend weather. It looks very pleasant throughout Saturday and Sunday. Yes, it's going to be very cold early tomorrow morning, but at least the afternoon highs warm back up into the mid-30s, 40s on the way throughout Sunday, and then Monday brings back another round of cold, 35 degrees to wrap up the month of February. We start off March on a rather chilly note as well, and we're just below average going on into next week. So we've got the record temperatures coming up that I'll explain that we broke just the other day, as well as the outlook going a little further into March. See if we can find some of that more warm weather. Allergy season also began this week. You felt it, right? You felt it.
Oh, my Lord. My eyes are
Yes.
literally, as soon as I'm done with this show, the glasses are going back on. Like, it's too much. I can't.
It's that Abruzzese blood, right? The eyes bugging out of your head because of the tree pollen.
Terrible.
Not to make you guys jealous, but I had bad allergies when I was younger. I don't have it anymore. I outgrew it, I guess. I don't know.
I have heard that. I have seen people, and I didn't have any allergies as a kid, and I have them now as an adult. So I somehow grew into them.
Weird. Okay. So, I mean, everybody gets a turn, right? Whether it's in adolescence or in adulthood, and it all stinks.
But Lisa Marie, you're not that old, so you know you're still a kid.
That is true. Yes, I'm 29. So
yes,
that's not old.
I'll see you playing in the snow later.
Thanks, Mike. And I love you were sprinkling the word warm. So that's a key word that I need warm. The 70-degree day, like I need more of that.
We all do. We all do. Speaking of the Abruzzese, though, Mike, we're at least my grandfather always said pazzo marzo.
And here we are.
Crazy
March.
March. Here we go.
In Italy too? Like, is the weather in Italy crazy in March?
Absolutely. They've got tornadoes this time of year. It was snowing and, going back from a 70-degree day. It's very similar to our weather here in New Jersey.
Oh, wow. Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
All right. So Melanie Borden LLC provides marketing and branding consulting to both businesses and individuals as a resource for guidance, as well as an outsourced marketing department, depending on a client's needs and preferences. Joining us now is Melanie Borden. Good morning, Melanie.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us today. So tell us a little bit about your company. I'm always looking for people who do this because I find the whole thing fascinating.
Sure, absolutely. So the short way to describe what I do is I'm a marketing consultant, because that's very vague and it's very broad. But to simplify it, I'm a marketing consultant. And the way that I would explain what my company does is we step in and work as what they call fractional marketing department, or looking at me as a fractional CMO or a fractional marketing manager that can help a business. And I also work, and my company also works with individuals as well. And so if someone is, in need of some sort of a strategy, whether it's being, a specific ad campaign, or if it's related to social media, we can help you.
That is great. And I want to focus specifically on LinkedIn, because really I know LinkedIn was the catalyst for you to go on and start your own business, because in a very short time, you grew your follower base to over 115,000 organic followers. How did you do that?
I know, when I think about the numbers and the scale in just a short period of time, it blows me away sometimes as well. And it gives me so much more respect for when you see people who have like 2 million followers, because it's a tremendous amount of work. And I did a post earlier this week because I was trying to figure out what the increase was in terms of the increase of followers that I've had from the time I started to now. And it was 3,800%.
Wow.
Which is crazy. Which is really crazy. So I got into it. I was working for a dealer group that was based out of Morris County here in New Jersey. And I was looking for some more ways to bring value to the sales teams and also bring more value to the dealership group. And I thought, well, why don't we start a branding and social media training that focuses specifically on LinkedIn? And the reason that I selected LinkedIn is because at the time, there were over 600 million users on the platform. Today, there's over 700. And less than 1% of the people who are on the platform were actually utilizing it like a social platform. But the difference between LinkedIn and all the other social apps is that you have people that are on the platform that are in any working capacity, and you can see everything about their work history. You could see who they're connected to. Whereas other platforms, even TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know who's engaging with your posts. Whereas with LinkedIn, you see everything. And so everyone you know at any professional capacity is on LinkedIn.
So how
Yeah,
has
that's very cool.
having a large presence on LinkedIn helped your business?
So what's really interesting is when I had set out to build an audience on LinkedIn, my goal, and this would be like the first tip that I would give anyone who's looking to create their own audience on LinkedIn, was to set a goal. And so my goal was to create a name as a marketer who worked in the retail automotive space. And so when you set a goal and you write it down, you're really creating accountability for yourself. And so when you set these goals, it just helps you with growing your reach and to continue to, attract new people to you. And I wasn't selling either. So it just kind of happened. And so that's the other tip, is to never sell on the platform and to always bring tremendous amount of value. And so how it's really helped my business is I've built so much trust and value within my network that it just happened naturally. So over the years, for the last 2 years, people have been reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, Mel, can you help my company with this project? Can you help us with this? Do you handle organic social media?" And it just kind of happened organically, where I formed my own business. And I would say that a bulk of the business that I have now comes from LinkedIn.
Wow. That is awesome. Here I am thinking, oh, I'm doing LinkedIn so well. I have like 3,400 followers, but I need to hire you to bolster my. No, that's like nothing compared to you and a lot of others. But it's interesting because you talk about how much work it is, because it's not just the messaging. It's not just the photo, like it's everything. Like it's a lot of steps. And a lot of people think that they don't have the budget to do that, or the bandwidth or the time. So what do you recommend?
That's why I recommend really setting a goal and deciding what it is you want from the platform and what you're looking to do. And then commit to a time frame that works for your schedule. Because the biggest thing that I see when other people, they get so excited about LinkedIn, like I'll go and do a training and they're so excited and they're ready to go, and then they never follow through because they haven't set up a time frame for themselves, like consistent schedule that works the best. So creating that consistent cadence that works best for you, and then really holding yourself accountable to continuing to post.
Melanie, what any other just tips for social media in general that people can start to follow that are looking to just grow across platforms?
Absolutely. I look at social media now, after, a couple years of being really active on it, as a way that you can create yourself as a trusted advisor. So whatever industry you're in, you have something to teach and you can tell people about it. And that's really what it's all about, is giving and not receiving anything in return, but to just know that when you give and you're teaching and you're educating others on your field and what you do, people are naturally going to be gravitated towards you, and you position yourself as a subject matter expert. So even if you're not, you can be, because you're talking about it so much that people think, okay, well, if I want to talk to someone about a morning show, well, I need to talk to the ladies on the New Jersey Morning Show, because they're always giving us feedback and they're always talking to us, about the things that we should be doing to be on camera and so on and so forth. So you could really position yourself however you want, and to give and give and give. And the people that you see specifically on LinkedIn that are teaching in their posts and providing value have the most engagement. And another tip that a lot of people don't know about is to like your own posts.
See, I thought that was a little narcissistic. Like your own post, right?
Yes.
That's interesting that you're saying that, because I never do that.
So a lot of people are like, why are you liking your stuff? Like, do you love yourself so much that you're liking your own posts? But the truth is when you like a post, you're engaging with it. And the LinkedIn algorithm and all social media algorithms, they thrive off of engagement. So every time you like someone's post, you comment on a post, you interact in any way with a post, that's engagement. And you want to do that with your own. And then your connections will see your content faster. And so that will really help you become more visible. And it's a faster way to grow your own brand on LinkedIn.
Interesting. I'm
Who knew? I love that tidbit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very, very easy. And I have to say, I mean, I post everything, like all my work content. Both of you know this, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. But LinkedIn, I guess, always in my head comes in last, but that's silly of me because I sometimes get the best engagement on my LinkedIn versus the other platforms.
And we're having so much fun on LinkedIn, and so many people that aren't really active on the platform don't necessarily know how much fun it is, because I just love the concept of anyone can grow an audience on LinkedIn if they're willing to be consistent and show up and just do a little bit of tweaking to their posting, because there's less than 1% of people out there that are actually utilizing it as a social platform versus other platforms where that percentage is so much higher, where there's so much opportunity on LinkedIn to grow your own personal brand.
I love that.
I love it. Melanie Borden, thank you so much for joining us today and for all your advice. Where can people find you and more about your business or sign up to be a client?
Okay, awesome. The best way to reach me is my website, which is melanieborden.com. You could also find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram, Melanie Borden LLC. You can find me on Twitter, Melanie Borden LLC. And you can also find me on TikTok. I am Melanie Borden.
That's a whole other lesson.
TikTok's a whole other animal. I don't understand it still. We'll have you back for that one. Melanie, thank you so much. Have yourself a great weekend.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Thanks, Melanie. Next, we have New Jersey Sports with Anthony Paradiso of the Jersey Sporting Network.
And as always, you can follow us on social media. We've got Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll keep you up to date on who's going to be on the show. Check us out. Click follow.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
It's me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Swing the hip.
Oh boy, they weren't kidding.
You're looking for a gold crown?
Sure. So you say you're helping people through. How are you doing that?
Welcome back to the New Jersey Morning Show.
Let's bring in meteorologist Mike Favetta, get a check of your Jersey forecast. And Mike, it's icy and slick today, but you're telling us it's not even going to last throughout the day.
No, we're going to have 40 and maybe 45-degree warmth by this afternoon. That's right. And with the sunshine, that will feel very pleasant. But this has been a trend where we get these warmer afternoons. Even in February, we had record-setting temperatures this week, prompting a lot of allergy sufferers to feel the pain, as we were discussing earlier. This is also a trend. You go to the Weather PC and you'll see that across most of the U.S., and yes, here in New Jersey, we've had warming winters since the 1970s, and this really goes back even all the way to, say, the portions here in the Northeast, not just New Jersey, but even going up to Maine. So an additional 5 degrees warmer than the 1970 winters. Yeah, that's certainly a concern, especially when you consider that temperatures in other seasons have been even warmer. Let's head over to the Weather PC, where we have a new record that was set, the weather graphics, that is. New records were set here in New Jersey on Wednesday, and that was at 70 degrees, beating the old record of 68 in 1985. The Atlantic City Airport tied at 72 degrees, and the Marina, 69. Who would have thought a beach day here in late February? And here we go, finishing out the month of February with some record warmth. Now, in addition to that, I think we have some milder days ahead because the days are quickly getting longer. The sun is setting later and the spring equinox is on its way. As the vernal equinox, first day of spring, happens in 23 days, where we get equal days and equal nights, well, plus or minus 8 minutes. So our sunrise by then will be at 7 a.m. and sunset at 7 p.m. Normally we'd be at about 52 degrees, and overnight we'll be above the freezing mark, but it still takes a while to eliminate our first frost. So don't go planting those sensitive spring plants just yet, even though you start to see the bulbs and the tulips come up from out of the ground. Obviously, the daffodils are much more harshly adapted to the cold rather than your summertime garden veggies. So got to wait to put those in the ground, at least for the next month or so. Beyond that, for the rest of the month of March, the Weather Service puts out this longer range plot, and it shows that most of the month of March is expected to be slightly above average. And now, again, this doesn't mean a whole, a lot of warm air comes in. It may only mean a degree or two above average, but any warmth is certainly good, and we'll take it after what was had some pretty harsh days this past winter, allowing for some hard freezes. And you saw that here in New Jersey. Some of the latest ice reports: Caldwell Airport, just a stone's throw from the studio, at a quarter of an inch of freezing rain measured. So yeah, that's from those fancy official weather instruments, and that's a lot of ice, especially on the untreated surfaces. So just goes to show, good decision that we were home today, as these winter weather events just seem to pick Friday to kind of give us those little extended 3-day weekends, or at least the kids get the 3-day weekends if they're not virtual.
Oh, they just love to mess with our schedules. Gerald and I, we actually did this. We when we were planning out the schedule for the week on Tuesday. So maybe we should be meteorologists. We call that shot.
Let's emphasize maybe.
We'll leave the meteorology to Mike. I think he's got it down pat.
I'm totally kidding. But whenever we see ice now, okay, lock it down, because we
lock it down
now. It's so great that we can
and it's not worth it to deal with just a little bit of ice.
Yeah, who wants to deal with it? Literally, I wasn't lying. Looks like an ice rink on my driveway right now.
Yeah.
So don't want to deal with that.
Mike, thank you so much.
All right. The Rutgers men's basketball team is still in the tournament hunt, despite their record dropping to 16-10 after a loss to Michigan. Joining us now to talk about our local Garden State sports is Anthony Paradiso from Jersey Sporting News. Anthony, good morning.
Good morning, ladies. How are you doing?
We're doing well, staying warm. So, Anthony, break down the state of the Rutgers men's basketball team for us. So their tournament chances are still alive, you say?
Yes, I think so. The next game against Wisconsin, the number 13th ranked team and the top team in the Big Ten Conference, is going to be huge. So that's at home. That's coming up tomorrow night. That's going to be a huge game for Rutgers if they want to make the tournament, Lisa. So,
right.
And we obviously want them to make the tournament, or at least I do.
Absolutely.
What, Anthony, talk about some of the tournament chances for other locals like Seton Hall.
Sure. Well, Seton Hall, I haven't followed them totally closely, but they are in the mix as well. They actually beat Rutgers earlier in the year, so they're a very good team, just like Rutgers is. But they're kind of like on the fringe, right? So they're not, perhaps in the top 25 rankings, but they're a team that is right there, threatening to come in. So that's what it is for like Seton Hall. And it's going to be interesting to see if they could do it for Jersey.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? Say Seton Hall, Rutgers, they missed the big dance, right? I think we're still set up for no, actually Rutgers isn't in the Big East anymore.
No,
they're not. So because I went to Seton Hall my first 2 years. So I remember spring break would kick off the Big East tournament at Madison Square Garden, and I would go, and it would be so much fun. But I think it's still set up to be a great Big East tournament with Seton Hall and some of the others, Providence, the other teams that are playing in that conference.
Yeah. There's going to be, like for Rutgers, they're going to play in the Big Ten tournament.
That's
or whatever.
tougher. That's a lot tougher, I think.
So that's going to be, like these teams, like, Purdue, Wisconsin, who they've beaten, by the way. So let's preface the fact that They were going to play Wisconsin, but they beat them about 10 days ago. So, if they can really recreate that performance, it's going to take some of their New Jersey natives, Paul Mulcahy from Bayonne and Geo Baker, and I'm blanking on where he's from, but, they're going to have to step up.
Yeah. And then speaking of Rutgers, Kara, you probably heard about this. The Rutgers president came out and said what a financial drain the athletics are. I mean, that's not really uplifting to hear from your school president.
Not even a drain. I mean, I think, because he said they're never going to sustain themselves. And I think that the Bianchi, the president before him, when they moved into the Big Ten and they, updated the football stadium and the promise there always was, well, if we invest in athletics now, they're going to churn money back into the university. And this guy just came out saying, nope, never going to happen. We are always going to be bleeding money into athletics.
So I wonder, I don't know if this has been asked or talked about, will they go take a step back to the Big East maybe? Because maybe they just can't sustain. I mean, Rutgers maybe isn't the powerhouse school that those others in the Big Ten are.
Yeah, it's an idea. I wonder if they can justify being in the Big Ten by it does bring in more money at some point. I mean, just like the recognition, right? Like I think Rutgers, when you play in a big conference and you're on TV all the time, I think it does have a benefit. Not that they wouldn't be on TV if they're in the Big East, but, it would probably just be like some of the games would be a little bit, have less of a profile, a high profile.
So switching gears to hockey, not Devils hockey, but there's a big tournament happening here in New Jersey with youth hockey. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes, absolutely. I played in it for a couple years there. Yeah.
Very cool. Nice.
Thank you. Yeah, at Montclair High School. And I want to give a shout out to my former coach, Coach Portis of the Glen Rock Panthers High School hockey team. They're going to be playing Mendham in the first round of the New Jersey State playoffs for Public B Conference. So they got a game today, and I wish you luck, Coach Portis. The state playoffs are kicking off for New Jersey, and we got lots of games coming up. One thing I wanted to throw in there is there is a girls hockey league. There is a girls high school hockey league that started last year. And actually the final had to be canceled because one of the teams that was competing had COVID. But this year it looks like things are going ahead smoothly. Morristown Beard is the favorite, but there's a lot of other good teams like Princeton Day and Oak Knoll in that conference. So that should be interesting.
That's awesome. That's very cool to hear. I'm glad to see the young girls be able to get into these sports that, we always kind of assumed, at least when we were growing up, those were the boys' sports and the girls didn't play. So it's nice to see them be able to, get onto football fields, get onto, ice hockey rinks and, to really be able to show off what they can do.
And Absolutely. What I saw, there's high school girls wrestling.
Wow.
Yes, there's high school girls wrestling. And I mean, it's very up and coming, at least in my town. Wrestling at Hanover Park, it's a bunch of little Italians, so they love wrestling. Anthony. So anyway, right. So I see posts about the wrestling moms and dads about girls wrestling. I don't know here in East Hanover if it's happening, but I know there's a push to get the girls wrestling into the Atlantic City tournament that happens. The boys wrestling has, so maybe to have a girls version of that. So maybe in a couple of years, we'll see girls on the football field too. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I know that, I coached some girls at Montclair High School on the JV hockey team. They were very good. One of them, I'll give a shout out. Katie Newkirk scored a goal in the MKA game, which is a huge game for the varsity team. So look out.
All right. Anthony Paradiso, JerseySportingNews.com. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks. Take care.
Always enjoy talking to Anthony.
Oh, he's Tony Paradise. He's the best.
Tony Paradise. That's it. We love him. We love him. And our other one that we love is our meteorologist, Mike Favetta. We'll bring him in for one more check of your Jersey forecast. Hey, Mike.
Only when the weather's nice, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
we love you all the time, but we'll tolerate this mess that's happening at the moment.
I gotta say, there might be some pool days coming up in the long range. You've got some warm weather. Come on, it was 70 degrees on Wednesday.
Lisa, you better get on it.
As we approach the end of winter, beginning of spring, you could start to filter the water and get things going in that.
Yeah, tell me when to open, and it's
okay.
It's done.
Right. Yeah. I think we're on our way to an earlier pool opening because a lot of folks were closing their pool later last season as we get that extended warm period, the extension of summer. Just have to have something cool place and think cool thoughts when we get to the real heat of summer because those look to be worse and worse each year. Want to show you the cold weather that's ahead for the weekend. Got to think warm thoughts to stay warm this weekend. Town by town we go from Morristown to Newark as temperatures will hold in the 30s. Tomorrow. It'll be a cold day, a little breezy. Wind chills will feel like the teens early on in the morning. This is your high just above the freezing mark. But again, with all the sunshine this afternoon and even more sun tomorrow, we should see a good deal of melting across most of New Jersey, even by the time we get to the sunnier feel on Sunday. Now, while Sunday is in the 40s across the state, there will be some extra clouds and there might even be a few rounds of flurries coming through later in the day. That's what you see here on the 7-day forecast, with temperatures on Sunday allowing for a little bit of a cool feel with those clouds. I put the flurry in there because I think by the afternoon might have a quick round of light flurry activity early on in the midday and early afternoon time frame. That signals another round of cold air that comes in for Monday. So we wrap up the month of February on Monday, very cold, starting in the 20s, climbing to 35 in the afternoon. But we're back in the 40s come Tuesday and Wednesday, and that will be our average for next week. We should be in the mid-40s to start off the month of March, so that arrives right on schedule, and the weather cooperates for the most part on the 7-day forecast. Nice quiet weather going forward, very pleasant conditions ahead, and lots of sunshine. And we'll take that sunny weather because after a winter of so many disruptions, especially as you're trying to get through the week, and then all of a sudden weather gives us a little ice and snow event on the 5th day of the week, we could look forward to a calmer weather pattern, at least for the next few days. So we'll take that.
We'll take it. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Wow. Looking ahead to the show next Friday, that's going to be a very special show for me personally. It's my daughter's first birthday. I cannot believe it. And it looks like she's going to have pretty good weather. So very happy about that.
Very nice. We'll have to do something special for her for sure.
Well,
also, we were talking before the show.
That's the special. March 5th, we're having her birthday party. 50 people at Seasons 52 in Parsippany. So
it's so stereotypical Italian. We do a whole blowout first birthday.
It could have been worse. If we did friends and like extended cousins, like that's just immediate family. If
I
we
love
did
when
all
people
of that,
say that,
I would have
like,
needed a wedding hall. So
I literally, well, and it's so funny you just said that because that people don't understand, like when you have a massive family, like when people are like, oh, I'm just having a small wedding. And like by small, they mean 50 people. And I'm like, I'm genetically related to at least 50 people. Like there is no such thing as small. Like
it's wild. But no, I promise you, I will share all of my party planning tips because we're having a lot of fun doing it. The theme is One Sweet Peach because her nickname is Peach.
I love it.
And so it's going to be a peach bonanza. So can't wait to share.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we'll have to, unfortunately, your daughter, like so many in the last few years, is a pandemic baby. So not too many of us have had a chance to meet her. So I keep telling people, I'd like to meet your child before you send her to college. Thanks.
Exactly. Oh, we will definitely arrange that.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us again this week. That wraps us up for this week on the New Jersey Morning Show.
We'll see you next week. Hopefully in the studio.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, if you need more New Jersey Morning Show throughout the week, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll keep you up to date on who's going to be on the show. You can check out all the interviews that we've done. Just hit follow.